Now for dispatching actions, create slice has got us covered. It automatically creates unique action identifiers for our different reducers. To get hold of these action identifiers, we can use our counter slice and access.actions. That is then an object full of keys where the key names, increment, decrement, and so on, match the method names we have in our create slice function in the reducers area. Now we can access those keys on this actions object, and with that we don't access the reducer methods defined up there, but instead we get methods created automatically by Redux Toolkit, which when called will create action objects for us. These methods on the actions object here, which we can call, will create action objects for us. Therefore, these methods are called action creators, and they will create action objects for us where these objects already have a type property with a unique identifier per action, automatically created behind the scenes. So we don't have to worry about action identifiers. We don't have to create those action objects on our own. We can tap into this actions key, into this actions object on our created slice and execute these action creator methods, which with their name match our reducer methods to dispatch actions, which will then ultimately trigger those different reducer methods. That's how this works now. And that means that we as a developer don't have to worry about creating action objects on our own and about coming up with unique identifiers and about avoiding typos. So that means that what we could do here is at the bottom of this file, we get our counter actions like this. And we then, for example, export our counter actions. So we don't just export the store, but also our counter actions. And by doing this, we can then go to the component where we need the actions, in this case the counter.js file, and import from our index.js file here and import the counter actions, which we just exported there. And now again, that's an object which has our reducer names, our reducer method names as keys. So now if we want to dispatch an action here, all we have to do is we have to access counter actions and then, for example, here increment and actually execute this as a method. Because increment is a method which, when executed, creates a full action object with the type set to this automatically created unique action identifier. So we get a full action object automatically created for us here. And I also want to do this for decrement, counter actions.decrement, and also for toggle, of course. Toggle counter. The question just is, what do we do here when we also need a payload? And the answer is, we still use our counter actions and then use this automatically generated action creator method here. But then to this method, we pass our payload data. So for example, an object with any property value pairs of our choice, or just the number by which we want to increase here. So any kind of value can be passed to increase. The only important thing to know here is how you then extract that value. Because what Redux Toolkit will do for us here is it will automatically create action objects, which it dispatches, where the type is some unique identifier generated by Redux Toolkit. And any value you pass here as an argument to this action method you're executing will be stored in an extra field named payload. And that field name is not up to you. That's the default Redux Toolkit uses here. Hence now in our index.js file, in the increase reducer, instead of action amount, we now need to access action.payload, because that is the name of the property which will hold any extra data you might be dispatching. But with that, was a lot of work, but with that, if we save all the files, if you reload your application, we can now use it as we did before, and everything works the way it did before, but now with help of Redux Toolkit. And this was certainly a bit of work to translate our code, to refactor our code to use Redux Toolkit. However, it also took quite long because I tried my best to explain it in depth. But now that we did transform our code, it's shorter, it's more concise, and it's easier to maintain. And it's also easier to now work with Redux if you have a more complex application, which we don't have yet, but which we will still get in this course.